Either side of the glass would have coated the lipstick mark with layers of damp, making it run like a syrup. I stared at the window pane. The letters began to dance. I blamed the droplets in my eyes for this little dance. But no, it was the flame in Catherine's hand that was flickering. She used her free hand to guard the flame and moved it closer to the red scribble on the glass, illuminating the word, help. The H had started to bleed, making a red trajectory, adding a more sinister feel to the already eerie scribble. Catherine placed the candle on the windowsill and cupped her hands to peep outside the window. She had clearly underestimated the utter blackness of nighttime in the woods. Our college campus was situated miles away from the never-ending lights of the city, and the girls' hostel was further away from the rest of the campus. The building was practically perched upon a piece of land at the cusp of the woods. Even if it were a full moon, its silvery rays would not have penetrated the dense fog. The few streetlights installed sparsely were not enough to tame the wilderness of the forest around us. "I can't see a thing," Catherine said, trying to stem the tide of fear. A shiver ran down my spine too, causing a tremble. "You can't break contact or it will haunt us all," Ria warned and pointed to my hand. My finger had lost the grip on the coin. Anjali's, Natasha's, and Ria's pointers were still resting at the edge of the coin. I got a handle on my nerves and placed my pointer firmly on the coin. It started to move. The coin jumped from one letter to another and made me reel in disbelief. Was one of them moving the coin, or was the tug in the coin bound by some unseen force? But the movement was too swift for any of them to pull through without getting caught, especially with that level of alcohol running in their veins. They weren't moving the coin. Then who was? My question was answered in Catherine's faint voice. She was reading the sentence that was carefully constructed by stringing the letters indicated by the coin. "I want to talk. Can I come inside?" Catherine looked at all of us with shock in her eyes, as if one of us had the answer to the turn of events that her logical mind could not comprehend. My suspicion that it was all a prank evaporated after reading Catherine's troubled expression. I hastily swallowed the tears stinging the back of my eyes, but the growing fear soon made itself felt in every part of my body, blurring the boundaries of the real and the surreal. "Are you here?" Anjali asked. Her controlled demeanor again raised the alarm in my head. "They are fooling you." But before I could jump to any conclusion, the coin moved and spelt out the word, yes. "Where are you?" Anjali asked, throwing a furtive glance at the window. The room was cloaked in silence. Yet I heard a thud, a loud, continuous thud. It was my heart beating in my ears, boisterous and erratic. I stared at the coin. It was still as the air around us. Everyone was holding their breath, waiting for the coin to move, until Ria's husky, deep-throated growl shattered the silence. "I'm here, inside her," Ria said in a voice that wasn't hers. 20 years later. October 31st, 2017, Natasha Gupta Lim, Raffles Place, Singapore. Natasha's weekly sales report needed another hour, but the notification on her smartwatch caught her attention. Trick or treat party. She dismissed the alarm, turned her eyes away from the incomplete sales report and looked outside the window. A patch of crimson cloud over Marina Bay Sands looked like the mast of a sailing vessel. The shades of pink in the sky hinted at sunset. It was a perfect evening to be home with her kids, to witness the sun take a dip into the sea. But Natasha's new role as sales head had robbed her life, and her twins' lives, of these tiny pleasures. Before her guilt could again drag her down the rabbit hole, the ring of her phone pulled her back. "Mommy, are you coming for the Halloween party?" Ryan asked. Natasha looked around. Everyone in office was still glued to their seat, but she had promised her twins to be home for trick-or-treat. "Today is my day to be a good mother." "I was about to call a cab, Munchkin," she said, and half-heartedly dumped the laptop in her bag. Kids or work, whichever side she swayed,